Hello,
Hello, Linda Hocam, how are you?
I'm fine, thank you. I'm sorry, the voice is, I need to, okay. Hello?
Hi, can you
Okay,
hear
I
me?
can hear.
Yeah,
I
yeah,
can hear you now.
that's
Good
good.
afternoon, Mr. John.
Thank you. How are you?
I am fine, thank you. We are very honored to have you here today with us.
Thank you.
We are here today actually to talk about English language in the new normal. As we all know, the pandemics seems to have changed everyone's lives, and especially the lives of teachers and students likewise. And during this time, we saw that one thing that survived was technology specifically, which was also used for the means of education. So you already know, we as AICA preschools, we already had our online classes with our students, with the kindergarteners during this distance learning period. And actually it was a plot twist because we teachers always advised and suggested parents to keep their kids away from the screen. Now it was us, it was us who was actually trying to persuade them to actually follow the online lessons. So even though it was difficult, we did it. We are still doing it.
We
But
have to.
now, yes, we have to, exactly. Now we are going back to the normal, or to what we call the new normal. We will try to adapt to the new lifestyle, at least. That's how we can call it. We are here to talk about this and about how this will affect English language and English language teaching, and also learning the language itself. Before we continue, could you please introduce yourself to us and tell us more about your background and your academic work?
Yes, of course. Thank you. Thank you for having me. First of all, before starting, I would also refer to the new normal, but of course, this is not very normal. Normal is a is an adjective, whereas I think we should be talking more about the new norms in life. So I'm going to refer to the new normal as a new norm, because I think we need a noun there rather than an adjective, because the noun has it represents a concept rather than a subjective reality. Adjectives are more talking about subjective reality and are used for that in languages. But anyway, my name is Tuncer. Yeah, thank you for having me, Aika. Very nice place and very nice. I have visited previously. Aika, a very nice place, a small but very, very fired teachers I can see, and doing lots of good things in there. Thank you for having me here today. My name is Tuncer, and I'm PhD at Istanbul Üniversitesi Cerrahpaşa, English Language Teaching Department. This is my 19th year now. Yeah, is it normal?
Wow.
Yeah, I think it's normal. When I graduated, I was actually hoping to be working at a university, and I wanted to work with young adults, and I think this is what I'm doing these days. I have completed my MA, my PhD, everything at Istanbul University at the time, and then now I'm since the university was split into two years ago. Right now, our school is called Istanbul Üniversitesi Cerrahpaşa. Yeah, but at the background, you can still see my background is Istanbul University, because, like I said, what's in a name? Yeah.
Yes, exactly. What's in a name?
But yeah, so a rose by any other name would smell as sweet. So it's the same concept. And yeah, I'm training teachers, and I have also been very active in some new tasks at the new university. Like, for example, I'm also managing the continuous education center of the new university, and then also I'm a vice director of the School of Foreign Languages of the Istanbul University Cerrahpaşa. So yeah, like I said, it's a very tough life, a new university, but a lot of new tasks. But yeah, we are enjoying it because we need to find and to do better things as we are maturing, and of course we are getting new strengths for this country So I'm pretty happy about this. Very difficult, hard, but it's okay. Yeah. Thank you.
Great contributions. Congratulations.
Thank you.
Well, I will refer then to the new norms rather than to the new normal. So let's talk a little bit about how will the new norms affect English language acquisition, or will English language actually, with its global use, actually affect the new norms?
Well, first of all, when we are referring to new norms, we should be talking about new things that could happen to us. So when we look at the stuff that's happening around in the last 2-3 months, the whole world is changing, but all of those changes are basically the things that are affecting the educators. And of course, there is no change at all for the medical people,
Exactly.
you know, the doctors and nurses. It's very difficult for them. It has always been very difficult for them. I'm not sure how new norms will affect them, but yes, new norms will affect some of the fields of lives. This is for sure. One of those, of course, is going to be education, since we will, from time to time, perhaps we'll need to lock down the schools, lock down the whole life, economy, and everything. So we are going to be also affected a lot. Like one example is there are more than 5.5 million people affected by this pandemic, and there are a lot of dead people already. This is true, but also 1.7 billion people are at homes. These are the kids. These are the young people of the world, and
the future.
Yes, of course. And think about this. This is, you know, 5.5 million people versus, and most of them elderly, versus 1.8 billion people who are at homes, because almost 10 million people are also foreign language teachers. The research of British Council shows that there are more than 10 million English teachers, which is they're teaching the languages, they're teaching the English language, and all of these kids, when they're at home, we have to find new ways to teach and to deliver, right? So in this context, when we look at this whole new norm, is it normal? No, it is not yet normal, but the point is it's going to be normal to teach kids from distance, and people learning from distance. So I think in this context we will need new approaches to learning. So far, everybody was talking about, and everybody was, of course, inclined to do everything face to face, touching each other and stuff. But today it's not possible to even talk to people, because again, all the data shows that we can be infected only by talking to people, by staying in a space for more than 10 minutes. So in this context, of course, we will need new approaches to learning. And of course, I'm not sure how this is going to happen. But of course, we today are experiencing extraordinary things. You, for example, when we were first meeting and talking about the situations, remember, I said, well, may God help you. Because so far, I remember previous talks with you, while you were giving us examples of how you're teaching new information to the kids, right? But today, and of course, you know, all
we cannot do that.
Approaches. That's the point. All of these approaches that you knew and you know, of course, and you are very well at, today are useless, because 1.8 billion people are at home. You don't have access to your kids, and perhaps in this context, the families, the parents, should get more initiative in the education of their kids. So it's not easy for kids to sit in front of the screens. Although they are screenagers, the research, some of the research shows that these are screenagers. They learn better from screens. This is okay. Some research shows that. But of course, it's not easy for these people, for these kids, and for the parents to do that. So in this context, of course, in the new life that we are going to lead from now on, let's say 21st century, and I think 21st century just came in 3 months, because so far we were doing all the things that we were doing in the 20th century. Yeah, there is a famous saying that says,
Exactly.
we are training the kids, we are training the future of the world with the 20th century information knowledge. But today we have to be doing, everybody, all of the teachers, everybody in this country, and as well as in the world, we all have to do online classes. So in this context, yes, English is going to be there because we need some access to knowledge throughout the world. One example is the internet, for example, because we are gathering information
Yeah.
from internet, and almost 59%, let's say 60 easier for English teachers, 60% of the information is in English. So it's apparent that we are still going to
Yes.
need foreign languages. I mean, not only English, but others as well, perhaps, as the life is proceeding in different directions. So it used to be easier just to learn one language and then go over the others. But now, today, it's not easy to have one foreign language and try to be different than the other people. So you have to have more than that. So in this context, for example, it's difficult to say that languages are going to be waived. I think that we will still need education for languages, because we still need the information from the world to be able to work together, because everybody is talking
Yes.
about that the world has to talk together, has to collaborate together to get over this pandemic and everything, because even only one case can just infect the whole world again, because of the
Exactly.
travel, because of other things. So basically, yes, I mean, it's going to affect us, but now we will have to find new ways and new approaches to teaching kids and, of course, young adults the future of this world. Yeah.
Yeah, up to now, teachers are trying to find their own ways. Like, there is not an academic work or research on this. Let's see how it's going to proceed in the future. It's
That's it.
actually very
That's it.
interesting. I am curious.
Yes, yes.
I'm curious to see for myself as well. Well, we spoke a little bit about the future, but what about the past? Mr. Can, I've had so many Turkish people around me who always say that we understand English, we understand everything, but we cannot speak English.
Yes,
Why is
yes,
that
yes.
so?
Well, okay. Like I said previously, it's my 19th year teaching a second language acquisition, training teachers to do well in this country, like you're saying, and to get over the problem of the people not speaking the foreign language that they're learning. Okay, so when you look at the thing itself from Turkey, okay, from Istanbul, or from Hatay, or from, I don't know, Izmir, okay, and also look at this problem that people are only understanding but are not speaking the language, okay, from broader perspective. Well, Americans learn Spanish for zillions of years. They can't speak Spanish.
That's
Yeah,
true.
the English people in Britain, I know there's a lot of research about that, are learning foreign languages like French.
French.
They're learning German, let's say, and do you know what is the success rate? 25%. Where is the 75%? The European Union research shows that the people who are learning foreign languages at schools, and there are some instances, better instances, like, for example, the Danish, the Swedish, where they learn English like 75%, no problem at all, but still 25% are not learning. But on the other hand, when we look at the numbers from different countries, like, for example, England learning French, only 2% are excelling into C1 level, which means they can become proficient speakers of that language. So when we only talk about Turkey, yeah, it's not a reality, because the whole world is suffering from the same thing. Okay, so why people are understanding but are not able to speak the language? Well, very easy. It all depends on the input. It's like an economy. However you behave to your job, or what input you give, is defining what is coming out in the end as an output, as an outcome. Okay, so if you are only training people through their eyes, which means you are only giving them access to read the foreign language, to see the foreign language, to write the foreign language, okay, so what do you expect? How can these people linguistically turn the visual sign into the audio sign, into spoken sign. This is not possible. So what we need is, and how we can overcome, is actually by turning into the initials of the how language is acquired. For 1 whole year, the kids, when they're acquiring even their first language, their mother tongue, are just listening. One whole year, only listening, and after 1 year, they can make up the connection between the spoken or audio sound with the visuals. Visuals, the concept itself. So, for example, when the mother says "mama," for example, in Turkish, and then the kid sees this bowl full of some food, and then "mama" and the food, "mama" and the food. So this sound system plus the visual system, they come together in the kid's mind, and this is how they actually are able to produce it in the novel situations. However, in our education here in this country and elsewhere, our kids are learning through reading. Our kids are learning through their eyes and just writing, which is only a visual sign. And in this context, you cannot simply turn the visual sign into an audio sign if you don't have the enough practice. And so I think this is the problem in the whole world. Yeah.
Yes, I agree with you. Taking a stance, this metaphor you used from the explanation you made about how children, babies learn how to speak their mother tongue, I would like us to talk a little bit about the difference between learning the language and acquiring the language, because I think this is what most of the parents and also most of the people who want to learn English cannot understand. There is a difference between learning the language in the classroom and actually acquiring it in a normal environment. Could you please talk to us about that a little bit?
Of course, thank you. A very good question, because actually why we understand and why we can produce, this is one of the distinctions there, right? First, comprehension and then production, right? So this is basically how it is. So acquisition and learning are two different things in this context. First of all, when we look at acquisition is successful 100% of the time. So any baby born anywhere in this world is able to learn its first language, its mother tongue, 100%, even if the baby has some disabilities, like for example is not able to see, so he's not getting the visual sign, or is having some disability in hearing, which means again that the kid is not able to get the input as it should be with 100% correction. Even in those instances, situations, the babies are able to acquire their first language. The only difference is time. They need more time than the usual normal kids who do not have any disabilities. Even the kids with mental disabilities are learning their mother tongue 100%. So isn't it something very distinctive? Yes, it is, of course. So this is acquisition. So let's now look at the learning. So how successful learning is in this context? Well, majority of people, like I said, can be like native speakers, can speak a foreign language like in like their mother tongue only 2% of the time. Only 2% of the time in the actual learning situation. So why? What makes the difference? Okay, so this first, let's put those. One is 100% successful. The other one is roughly 2% successful. Yeah, so that's how it is. Why? So first of all, the babies, when they are born into a family, they are born in the natural environment. So what is a natural environment? Well, the mother and the father, in some cases, carer of the baby, in some cases, the grandmothers, grandfathers, other relatives, brothers, sisters, whatever. There are many people who are talking and giving input to that kid. How long? Well, uncomparable, 24 hours only. As long as you're not sleeping, you're getting actually input, okay, as a baby. 100%. Remember, why? Because everybody talks to you, gives you evidence, gives you positive input. Then learning on the other side. Well, many kids and only one teacher who can give you the input. So look at this. The natural, the actual model is just upside down. One person getting
exactly.
a lot of input versus one person who gives the input and then lots of people lots of kids are trying to get the input. So, and competing for this. So this is one difference. Why 2% versus 100%? Another difference is, of course, the acquisition happens naturally. What do I mean by naturally? Well, you sit down for almost a year. It is also developmental, which means there are certain stages that you have to go over before you actually acquire the language, which is almost 13 months, 12, 13 months before one baby is able to produce its first word. Of course, individual differences. Some babies do it in 10 months, 11 months, 12, 13. So, but in the classroom, we don't have time to expect the kids to work through the language. Okay, so what do? If they don't answer the question, if they don't contribute in the classroom for 1, 2, 3, 4, 5 seconds, never mind, and then you go into the next person. So what happens is we don't give the kids enough time to sit down, to think, to observe the language unconsciously, and afterwards give you back what you want, real meanings. Yeah, in the classrooms we are not waiting. Number 3, there is a difference between acquisition and learning, because acquisition happens with real feelings. Mother and father, we know how we feel to our kids, right? But
Exactly.
the teachers in the learning situation, what happens is, well, yes, we love our kids, we really love our students, but what if we are not paid for a couple of months? So it's not the same unconditional love that's happening between the carer and the kid versus the carer in the classroom and the student. So this is also different, right? Another difference is that kids, when they're acquiring the language, are natural environments where they can do tasks with the language, yeah? And as long as they do these tasks, like for example, if they're hungry, they have to make some moves to get what they need, versus in the classroom, they don't need anything, but then they have to just speak the language. Why? There is no reason. So there are, like you see, there are a lot of differences between language acquisition and language learning. In this context, language learning is a little bit different, not a little bit, it's a lot different. 98%, you see difference, 100%, 2% of the time, it's very different. So in this context, learning happens in structured environments like classrooms. And in the classrooms, people have to look at the neck of the other people. This is not possible in natural environments, for example. In natural environment, we have to look face to face. We have to see what's happening emotion-wise, behavior-wise. But in the classrooms, they have to stay still 40 minutes. They can't move. And how can we expect these kids to learn while they are not communicating, and while they have to also be silent? Yeah, why? Well, because there are many kids who are competing for attention, so they have to be silent when they are not doing so. But at home, we all know, parents, they know it much better today. It's dreadful. 2 kids at home, yeah, not silent for even a second. So what's happening all the time? Running, doing activities, doing things, and of course they learn. But in the classrooms, they have to stay still. They have to do tasks that they don't need. And so in this context, it's not possible to learn the language. So this would be the difference, yeah.
Well, thank you very much for your answer. At Arika preschools, we use immersion as a methodology to teach children the language, to have them actually acquire the language rather than to learn it.
Natural approach, right? Natural.
Yes. Exactly, natural approach. So we are very fortunate on this side, because with us the kids have the chance to speak wherever they are. But we have this, so to say, problem. At the beginning, as you also said, when babies just start speaking, before they start speaking, producing the first words, they rely on their input and they need some time. We also have witnessed, we know from our experience that our students also go through these phases when they are learning English, which we call the silent period,
Yes.
So it actually takes some time for them to transfer this passive vocabulary into active vocabulary, and to try to make the connections, to start making sentences and stuff like that. But how much time should we give to students What is the academic information or research saying about this? How much time should we? How much should we wait? Because you know, as I mentioned earlier, there is this thing that people always think that if children, if you have your child attend an English-speaking school, then you go snap like this, and the kid starts speaking English. No. We know that it does not work like that.
No, not at all. Not at all. Okay, how does the brain of the kid accept this situation? Okay, they're sent to English medium schools, let's say, okay, versus they learn the language at home. Okay, so how does the brain work? Okay, so first of all, when they come to your school, for example, English medium, immersion, and you do everything to help the kids to acquire the language naturally, which is cool. But what happens when they go home? They spend, let's say, 5-6 hours with you, let's say 6-7 hours with you. So what happens then when they go home? I tell you, nothing. There is no input. Okay, so what does this mean? Of course, this does not happen like it happens at home and with the first language. Yeah, because the situation and the conditions are not the same. At home, you're receiving 24 hours of the same input. You're receiving the same input from everybody. Anyone you see, outside, inside, at 5 o'clock in the morning, 7 o'clock during the day, whatever, you're receiving the same input. But what happens when these kids go to schools like yours? They receive the input, that's okay, yeah? But then when they go home, they don't receive it anymore because the granny does not speak like that, yeah?
Exactly.
The same happens in my home. Everybody's like, yeah, you're an English teacher, your wife is an English teacher, so perhaps you're just speaking English and the kids speak English too. And I'm like, no, not at all. Why? Because the kids don't need it. What they need with me is to feel the love of the mother tongue, right? Yeah, and then of course we connect, unconditional love, and that's it. So why should I put something that they don't understand, like English, yeah? And we don't do it, very natural. And I'm always like, yeah, they will learn at school when they need it, that's okay. But of course I'm pretty sure, and I know that there is some gap in that, and it is delayed. It's not happening like in the acquisition at schools because the kids are not receiving continuous input. What was happening previously, historically? There were some in Ottoman era as well, and of course some people who could afford, they were just hiring foreign language speaking nannies. Okay, and what was happening was these kids could turn to that nanny at home. Yeah,
exactly.
At home where they feel very secure, and then they can talk to her, or she was talking to them, right? Versus these kids are turning to their parents and speaking. So that nanny, that carer was always with them 24 hours. And that's why it was a working system. However, with the school system, as long as we just keep the foreign language locked in some space, the school, and they cannot transfer this information outside into real world, it's impossible to do it in very, very short time. So in this context, the kids need time. Naturally, this happens, no problem. This happens naturally. But the only thing is, of course, they need some time to be able to transfer all the information that they are getting during the day at school and try to use it outside. If they can't use it outside, nobody should expect them to actually do it.
So they should continue English language at home as well, or get support at home as well.
That's right. This is the key for that, because the nature works like this. And also, you cannot expect the kid to transfer that information home just because you want it. It should be natural.
Exactly.
It should be natural.
And children always use the easiest way, actually. If you ask them a question, I'm just assuming, what color is your shirt? They will not sit and say, my shirt is blue color. They will not make a sentence. They will answer straight away. They'll just say the color of the shirt, and that's it. Because they don't think the way that we want them to think, or they don't think that they should speak that way.
First of all, when we look at the nature and how we acquire vocabulary and how we acquire sentences, okay, this is a much different discussion here now. Why? First of all, there is this specific thing that we call holophrastic stage in the vocabulary acquisition. Okay, so what does that mean? Okay, what does that mean? So when the kids are 12 or 13 months, for example, okay, what they do is they acquire vocabulary. They're not still mentally equipped to do a sentence, okay, for example. And what they do is they're trying to put more information into one word, okay, which is a whole phrase. When they use one word, they actually mean the whole phrase, a whole sentence.
Exactly.
Okay, and so in this context, you can't expect the kids, especially in your level, to speak sentences. Come on, this is ridiculous. They will speak in sentences when they really need to, when they have exam, when they have something to prove, right? But when you say what color is your shirt and it's yellow, the information is there. Hello.
Yes.
Why do you need
Yes.
why do you need a whole sentence? It is the teachers. It is I call it the teachers. What was that? Complex, because the teacher should hear it is yellow, and then, well, yeah, I thought I did my job, versus the reality of life.
I did.
Yellow, that's it. The whole information is there. Why do you need to have it in full sentence? This is ridiculous.
Well, talking about sentences then, what are the principles of English language acquisition?
The principles of language acquisition are, so like I said previously, first of all, you have to make the environment natural. Second of all, they have to be feeling secure, the kids. Okay, so this is basically, like I said, unconditional love. So you should, as a teacher, let's say, be able to access the students' feelings. So how does this happen? Very easy. It's very easy to provide some content that is of interest to the kid, and this is creating feelings anyway, because they like it. Yeah. Or also what you do as in language acquisition is, like I said, you wait for almost 1 year before they can work out the information. Third, I think it's fourth of all, you really need tasks which the students can do naturally, like asking for something when they are hungry, like for example, expressing that they don't like something, then refusing stuff. I'm talking about the functions of language. So they have to be able to do some functions with their language. And also in language acquisition, a very important thing is recycling effect. Okay, so what is recycling effect? Recycling effect is when the kids are continuously hearing one word in their environment, versus
repetition.
Repetition, but I'm not talking about rote repetition. I'm talking about recycling. And recycling is when you hear about a word, when you see a word continuously around in your life. But of course, they are not like repeated. Perhaps you heard it today. Perhaps you heard it 2 days later. Perhaps you heard it 7 days later. But the point is, it is somewhere around you. And then you continuously hear it, okay, or see it, that whatever the concept is. And this is what we call recycling. So, and the research shows for kids to be able to own a vocabulary, a word, they need to see it in different contexts and in different times, from 7 to 20 times. Yeah, whole nations work. I remember reading one of his research where he was talking about from 7 times until 20 times to own a word. Like you said, to turn one word from passive into active. Yeah, so it's you have to create 7 to 20 different situations where this word is important and is used, so that the kid can start using it. So
thank you very much. Thank you. Well, talking about the words and talking about communication and how important it is, what do you think about bilingualism and the effect of communication in developing speaking skills?
Okay.
You mentioned and how to support parents, because there are parents who are English speakers and parents who are not English speakers. So how to support parents in this kind of situations at home?
in the context of bilingualism. Okay, so first of all,
of bilingualism.
So first of all, we have to understand that monolingualism is not normal. Well, what I'm trying to say is
Anymore,
no. It has always been the reality that bilingualism is a norm. First of all, it's the normal is actually being bilingual. Why and how? Well, when we look at the nature again, when we look at what has humankind gone through, okay, what we see is in the last 150 years, we have been living in monocultural, monolinguistic contexts. Previously, for zillions of years, thousands of years, we had these empires where the limitations of the human life were not present, unlike today. A passport to travel from Turkey to Germany, from Germany to England. Okay, so this is only 150 year phenomenon. So how has life been before that? For zillions of years. Well, very easy. You would just think that it's good for you to travel to blah, blah, blah. You would just go there. That's it. No, you don't need any paperwork. You don't need any limits, right? So in this context, people were bilingual, okay? And this is the normal thing. Plus, we see that in the nature, when you have two parents from two different two different languages, let's say the mother is Turkish, and let's say the father speaks, I don't know, English. And then what happens is if the father always talks to the baby, to their kid in English, and the mother always speaks in Turkish, in 3 years' time, the kid turns left to the father, speaks English, turns right to the mother and speaks in Turkish without any problem. And this is how nature works. However,
exactly.
And this has to be natural. That's the thing. There is a lot of research that shows that bilingualism actually happens without any problem. Of course, when you have monolinguistic, monocultural countries like we have, racial countries like we have today, then some people with some nationalistic views would say, yeah, but the kids, they have to first develop their mother tongue before the second language or another language, blah, 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 blah. Well, this is not true. This is only a nationalistic view. That is not true. Of course, there could be delays because the input is half-half, 50-50. But no worries. The human brain is such a nice tool that works out two different inputs into two different systems, and then this is happening in the world without a problem. And in 100%, look, I'm repeating, 100% of the time when the mother behaves naturally, speaks her own language, the father behaves naturally, speaks his own language to the kid, in 3 years' time, the baby just acquires both of them, turns into sides and speaks the same language. So there is no problem. So in this context, what I could say to the parents is, just go ahead, behave naturally, do your own language, and then see how the nature turns your kid into a bilingual. That's it, because this is a natural phenomenon. This is not something extraordinary. Why we think it is extraordinary is because of our nationalistic thoughts most of the time. And of course, one more thing, very important, where these parents live. Yeah. In this context, if, for example, these people speaking English and Turkish live in Turkey, well, no way. The kid, because of the dominant language is Turkish, of course, the Turkish language will be better than the English. Of course, there is no question about that. But if these parents are living in England, English will be much better than the Turkish because of the dominant language concept, which is, of course, related to geographical space of the kid. Yeah, and this is very natural.
So time is the key. We should give time to children.
That's the point.
Otherwise, it is exactly. Otherwise, it is by accident that we speak a certain language, just like our nationalities.
Yes, of course.
Which reminds me, When you talked about bilingual families and parents, each parent speaking their own language, reminds me of actually the way that we do it at our school. We always instruct teachers, since we have a bilingual system as well, and one teacher is Turkish speaker and the other one is English speaker. So we always instruct teachers to play the role of mother and father at home, because kindergarten, it's not like other formal educations, it's a continuation of what happens at home. So teachers naturally adapt the roles of parents. So one of them is the mother and the other one is the father at school. So that's actually how we are trying to do it, and children will then just try to connect to their teachers through using the code of language, whichever it is, and it works the same way.
Yes, of course.
But in online education, this is not the same as it is in the classroom. So I have a question about online education, distance learning. What should our expectations from children be in these circumstances?
Mm-hmm. Well, first of all, what we need from what we need the kids to do is actually self-management, and that's it. What do we mean by self-management? They should really be fired and excited to meet the teacher. That's it. We should only expect them to do that, because it is not a normal situation, adjective and noun, normal situation. It's not normal. And so how do we expect them to behave normal? These kids have not been out, and especially if they live in apartments, they have not been out for 2-3 months. How come? And what do we expect them to do? This is outrageous. So what happens is we should create such activities online, whatever, through the medium that we have access to, and of course they should have the access to that medium to be excited about it. So if there is a feeling, if there is this excitement, if they're waiting for you as a teacher, if they really say, hey, let's see what activity we are going to do now, because the teacher will want us to do this and that, blah, blah, blah. But it's not easy, like I said, because again, it turns back to what? To approaches and theories that are actually giving us ideas about what we should be doing. So in this context, like I said, the only thing is self-management. And self-management is about, I really want to do it. Or the kid just wakes up, oh, today again a class, come on, again online learning again. If this is the feeling, then expect nothing. Expect nothing. But also, I think in this context, the parents also have some role to play. Like, for example, they also should be helping and working together with the teacher. And the teacher and the parents should work both together to fire the kids, to actually excite the kids, because it is not possible only from the one side, because you have no access to home, and the home does not access to school. How come they can work together? You see? And because this is a mutual project. The kid is not only schools, and it's not only the parents now, because both have responsibility here in the education of the kid. Yeah. And if we are to expect something from the kid, these two parties should also work together. Yeah, exactly. This is how it is.
So what kind of technological means would you suggest to support parents at home?
Okay, it's very easy.
What can they do to support their children's English?
Very easy. First of all, they should sit down and read to their kids. Of course, it looks like this is not a technology, but there are a lot of reading apps, for example. They can sit down to work together. They can sit down to read these readings, stories, whatever, in the context of some apps. And then they can also play with the characters in the app, blah, blah, blah. There are a lot of different things. Since I don't want to sell anything, I'm just not saying which apps you can use. But I tell you, go and look for apps which the parent can read to the kid and also play together. So this is one. Second of all, there is a huge database about videos. But of course, when I say videos, I'm not talking about managing the kids, giving just a tablet or a phone to the kid and I expect it to watch and stuff. No, I'm not talking about this. I'm talking about watching together. Since we are not working and we have a lot of time at home, just sit down with the kid and watch together and ask critical questions. To the kid. Like, why she did so? Why do you think it's important? Why do you think blah, blah, blah? Hey, what about this color? And while watching, you just turn this into a real communication between a parent and a kid. And this contributes a lot to how the student thinks. And of course, into the linguistic aspect of the kids. So like I said, read stories together, watch videos together, and of course talk about them, and you will see how the information grows in their mind, be it languages or other concepts that they need in life. So basically all of these, and today we are very lucky. I would argue that the only democracy today is with technology. We all have access to technology. We all have internet connections. We all have access to YouTube videos or whatever. We all have access to free apps that are helping our kids. So this is democracy. Yeah, everybody has the same conditions, from the poorest to the richest. But on the other hand, if you're not spending time with your kids, nothing will work. This is very obvious. Just the research shows that only by watching videos, trying to learn a language only by watching videos does not work at all. It just gives you some vocabulary. This is true. You learn some vocabulary, but you never make a real sentence. You see? So because and you really don't learn any grammar. Because interaction is the key. Interaction is the key to successful language acquisition, and that's it.
Exactly. I agree with you. Mr. Can, I know about your project on localization, and I am wondering about whether or not it applies to kindergarten level. If yes, how? Can you explain us?
Okay. So first of all, when I say let's explain what is glocal. Okay. So this is the combination of two words, local and global. Okay. So today in this world, right now, we are in Turkey, in Istanbul, Turkey. And then what happens is we are trying to teach English. Okay, so what we have observed in students is that generally when we are trying to teach them English, it is foreign. It is foreign language to them because of the conditions of Turkey, because there is not enough input that you can get from outside. As long as you're at school, it's fine. You have teachers, native speaker teachers like yourselves, but outside you don't have access to them, blah, 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 blah. So what we thought is perhaps to make the access easier to the foreignness of the language, we should be able to use some of our own values, the Turkish values. Yeah, so this is the local aspect. What I'm talking about is basically, first, why don't we use some local stories to teach foreign languages? So this is basically localization, yeah? So, for example, all our kids know about, let's say, Nasreddin Hoca, and then why don't we have some Nasreddin Hoca stories in English? Because they already know about the content. So through this local content, they can access foreign vocabulary. And then this is basically what we are talking about when we say localization. And then there are lots of other things that you can do. But because I'm not working on young learners, so perhaps this will not be the best answer. But because you're working with young learners, perhaps with this idea of bringing the local into the global culture, bring them together, perhaps you can find much better ways. What I'm thinking is only stories, but of course there could be other values as well, like helping somebody to do something, because in Turkish culture, hospitality is very important. And in this context, perhaps designing some foreign language education around value education for kids. This could be another localization example. Yeah, helping others and then giving to others. Yeah, from yourself, volunteering for something. All of these values are local values that the Turkish people would know. And of course, learning and doing activities around those with a foreign language could perhaps give an easy access to the foreign language, rather than just bring them, stories from I don't know, the Black Forest, wolves and stuff. Yeah, they don't see any wolves. So this is
exactly
what I'm talking about.
So using children's own culture in order to learn the foreign language.
That's what I'm talking about.
That's actually a great idea, and I think it would also work in kindergarten level as well. Why not through stories, maybe some idioms that are translatable in English as well, or things like that. That would be very nice actually to apply, to see and apply in kindergarten level. And I think we don't have that much time left. So I would like to finalize it with our project on the conference, AICA Preschools and Istanbul University Cerrahpaşa. As you know, we were planning a conference, and hopefully when we get back to the new norms, we'll get back to it, because teachers are going to watch this video as well. Is there anything that you would like to share about this conference for those teachers and parents who would like to attend it?
In English language teaching, in foreign language field, we actually, and you, while we were first talking about this idea with you, because you brought the idea to us, and we really liked the idea, and we really wanted to work on it, because there is a very little research about foreign language young learners in our context in Turkey, which makes it very difficult for the teachers to find any information, relevant information about how to teach young learners, first of all. So in this context, we really thought it's a very, very beautiful idea to work on, and to bring people, parents, and researchers onto this idea where early childhood education, early foreign language education is actually becoming a field in itself. So we really wanted to work on this. And remember, we almost were getting the registrations, and we were almost
yes.
But unfortunately, because of the lockdowns and everything, of course, this is all void now. But anyway, we will work on it, because we are still thinking that this is a very nice idea, that the university as a theoretical institution should bring you, AICA, as a practical institution that is actually doing the actual work there together. And then who else can do it anyway? You know, bringing theory and practice in one field is, I think, the ideal. So when we come together, I think we will still do it. But like I said, let's see what the new norm will be. And afterwards, I think we will be able to actually see how we will proceed. But since we did most of the preparations, I think in a very short time, we can actually do it.
Hopefully.
So I'm positive about it.
Hopefully, we are also positive about it. Of course, we are hoping very much that it will actually be finalized. Yes. Thank you very much for your time, Mr. Can. It was an honor to have you with us.
Thank you.
We hope to meet again soon.
Yes, of course.
In the new norm.
Yeah. Thank you very much. Thank you for having me.
Thank you for your time.
Yes,
have a nice day.
Always. Thank you.